Good morning, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here in this teacher's interview. World Language Academy offers you, for English teachers, educators, these kind of events, online events, in order to share experience, knowledge. We have the opportunity to talk directly with educators, with trainers, and English teachers. So it's a pleasure for me, Andres Rodriguez from Guayaquil, Ecuador, to administrate or to control this interview. Okay, today we have a Mr. Lewis as special guest, and you are lucky to participate here, and we can make this interview more friendly or more collaborative with your participation. All right, so Mr. Lewis, thanks for being here. As I told you at the beginning, how are you doing? I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis. Let me unmute you.
Yes. Okay. I'm doing fine so far. Wondering about tomorrow's elections. There is this feeling of expectancy about what is going to happen. So pretty much that is what I'm here at the moment at home. My son is with his mom somewhere, and I'm home alone at the moment. So. But I'm kind of accelerated to be part of this event.
Yeah, here in Ecuador, for people who don't know what is happening, well, during this weekend, we have on Sunday elections. So that's the context why Mr. Luis was explaining he was at home. Okay, so let me introduce first about Mr. Luis Bermudes. No, he's a He's a professor at Guayaquil University. He's working in different areas. No, he is a professor. He teaches English. He has experience in different places, workplaces, for example, COPEI, and so on. Additionally, he writes online books, and he also publishes different journals or scientific articles in important uh, um, websites or interesting international magazines. So he has his recognition, and I think that's very important for him to know you more about him. Mr. Luis, my first question is about what was the first time you feel your advocacy to be an English teacher? So, in what when in your life do you feel that you were able to transmit or teach English for people in general? No, please, could you share with us?
Yeah. All right. I come from a family of teachers. My father was a teacher. My mom was also a teacher. My grandmother, my grandma, she was a teacher. Some of my relatives are teachers as well. My sister is a teacher. So teaching comes naturally to me. I mean, and there was a point in my life when I did not know what I wanted to do. And so I registered at the Universidad Estatal de Guayaquil. At that time, it was called Universidad Estatal de Guayaquil. These days, it's only Universidad de Guayaquil. So I registered there and I started studying to be a teacher, but I was not completely, um, you know, uh, convinced that that was my call. Nevertheless, as I progressed, yes, I felt that it was something I liked. It was something I enjoyed, and I also connected with the fact that it was English, like So and I liked English. At the beginning, I did not. I felt like it was nonsensical. But once you understand English, it's easy. Once you understand the dynamics implied in English, once you understand that is there is a lot of livelihood in English. How dynamic it is, you start to like it, and that's what happened to me at the beginning. I did not like English, and I did not know I wanted that I was going to be a teacher. These things came um, to me later, and once when everything was done and when I finished my career, I felt like yes, this was the right thing to do. I was supposed to be an English teacher, and that's what I am now. But there are also other aspects in my life that I wanted to fulfill, like for example, being a writer. It's difficult to be a writer in Latin America. It's difficult to be a writer anywhere in the world, but in Latin America it's even more difficult because people do not read and do not take reading as something important, something essential, and in a way that affected my career because when I chose what to focus on, I chose reading and writing and I was basically a reading and writing teacher in English. You know, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Is I try to, in a way, I combine these both aspects of of my life, both two things that I enjoy doing. One was teaching, in this case, teaching English, and the other one, uh, literature in general, reading and writing in general. So when I got into those classes in high school, I was happy because I was doing something that I liked, that I enjoy doing, and it's different when you just know your stuff. It is on top of all you enjoy it, you like it, you love it. It is an entirely different experience. And I remember that my first, I'm sorry, it was not the first. The second high school, I worked at, well, that was Popol, Colegio Politécnico. And I was lucky enough to have excellent colleagues from who I learned. And some of those people are here. Some of those people, and I had wonderful students as well. Well, not it's not that every student was wonderful, but some of them were great. And again, some of my students eventually became teachers as well. They're great professionals. So is if I would say that that was how I began. I began by a little bit blindly. I didn't know what was my calling life, but I discovered it little by little, slowly, and luckily, the way I see it, it was the right thing all the time.
I got a question.
Good morning,
Say it. Hi, Ruben.
Mr. Carlos. Thanks for being here. Mr. Lewis, thanks for sharing your interesting and experience, no, that you have lived, no, and also we know the challenges. Um, so I heard someone may probably will
It was
want
Ruben.
to
It
make
was
a
Ruben.
question.
It was
Yeah,
Ruben.
Luis, you were. I remember that you were my teacher. You were one of my mentors. But what you said, right? I would like to know your answer. But if you knew that writing was difficult, why did you decide to be a writer?
No,
Right?
no, writing is not difficult.
No, no,
Writing is
to
not
be
difficult.
to be a writer here, to be a
Ah,
writer, to be more specific. Yeah, no. If you
yes,
wanted,
it is
you know what I
difficult.
mean, right? To be a writer here in Latin America, especially in Ecuador, I guess Ecuador is the worst place, I guess, in my opinion, to be a writer here. Why did you decide to be, even though you knew the consequences, right?
It's about your philosophy in when you do things. I knew already that I was not going to
Estoy
be
en dos
I was
slides,
not going to be
en inglés.
sorry.
Go ahead,
I,
Mr.
No,
Lewis. Don't worry.
no. Just continue.
all right, yeah, don't, okay. It's about your philosophy, how you approach things, how you approach things. and I knew already that writing was not going to be. I mean, I was not going to make money out of it. So for me the thing that makes me a breadwinner, that is teaching English, right? So I already knew that writing was not going to do. I mean, it was not going to represent anything economically. So I always take it as a hobby. It is a hobby to me, really, because I mean, if I wanted to live on writing, that would be, that would not be realistic, because you cannot make money out of that unless you're really successfully because you were very lucky to find, I don't know, an opportunity, or somebody who knew about the world of literature and was into that, and had already an editorial, or blah 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 blah, or a publishing company or something like that. All right, maybe, but it's really difficult. So I for me, it's a hobby. It's the hobby that I enjoy the most. I have different hobbies. I watch movies, I travel, but the one that I find the most enticing, the one that really makes me feel passionate about, that is writing. I write books. I was writing 20 minutes before we started this interview, and probably I'm going to continue writing after this interview, and tomorrow that's what I'll be doing. So when I'm not looking after my son, and when I'm not working for the UGE, that's what I do. I write. And of course, I have to read, because you need to read a lot in order to have something to share with the readers. Because really, it is about that. Writing is an act of sharing. You share things with people. It's not only the story, there is more to it. Writing is not an easy process, and it's not something that you start and then you finish. It's something that you start, you try to finish, but then you decide that it's not good enough. Then you come back to the beginning, you start over, you review. It's an endless process sometimes until you decide that, okay, this is it. This is the final draft, and then you send it to your publisher if you're lucky to have a publisher. I am a self, well, not really, but basically I am a self-independent writer, and I publish myself. I publish my books myself through Amazon. So all my books, oh well, the books that I write in Spanish are on Amazon at the moment. I don't know if I answered to your question, Ruben. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You did, you did. Well, but that must be a very demanding hobby, right?
It is, but it keeps your mind healthy. It keeps your mind healthy with all this nonsense that the world is right now, with all the hilarious, sometimes far-fetched information that you receive from TikTok. This keeps your mind healthy. It keeps mind healthy. Otherwise, I would be, I don't know, mentally ill at the moment. But I feel very healthy. I like what I do, and well, that's one other reason why I write.
That's good.
And
Yeah,
That
thank you.
sounds fantastic, Mr. Lewis. So thanks for giving that uh, giving that answer. No, so I think Mr. Carranza. Hello, Mr. Carranza. Thanks for being here. Would you like to ask any question to Mr. Lewis?
Yes, of course. First, let me say hello to Mr. Luis Bermudez. He's definitely one of my best writers. I like his style. I like the way he writes. And then I really appreciate that you are sharing this time with the rest of the teachers that are here. Mr. Luis, how is Mr. Luis Bermudez? How is it possible to concentrate because you live in a big city like Guayaquil? I am not there anymore. You know, I left Guayaquil because now I live in the countryside of Manabi, and I am really nice here. But you are still there. How can you concentrate with all the noise of the big city, with all the city trouble that you have there? Nowadays, Guayaquil is in the 24th position of the most dangerous cities in the world. So, I mean, you really need some space to concentrate. How can you do that in a place like that?
I think it is always difficult for I mean to live in a big city, and especially in Guayaquil, because it's not only about the crime, but what happens after that. The criminals do not receive their due punishment. So and they are set loose, and then they go out. So you see, it's kind of a endless cycle. You have them go to prison, but then they are released by some judge, and they go out, and what they do is what they the only thing that they know, criminals. They commit crimes, and then they go back, and then they so it's yes. But what I do is basically I use that to my advantage. I try to because it's easy to concentrate when there's no noise around you, right? But it is even, I mean, it's difficult when there is noise around you. But if you can do it, if you can manage it, then the result is even, I mean, you can concentrate at any moment, at any time. So I try to use that I do it as an exercise. Okay, there is noise. Can I use that? Maybe I'm listening to some music that some distant neighbor is playing, and I don't like it, but I use that to give me some idea that I can uh, print in my story. So it's what you do with what you get. It's what you do with what you get. And really, Guayaquil might be a dangerous city, but it's my city, and I love it. And most of my stories happen in Guayaquil. And also another thing is that I have sometimes I ask for help to friends and to my friends, sorry. And some people are very generous. Some people are very generous, and they help you out. They give you they I tell them, okay, please, can you tell me your opinion about this? And I remember that, for example, once I didn't have an editor for one of my stories, and that story was Alessandro, which I wrote back in 2015. And nobody wanted to do it, because it was not a short story, but it was not long, but it was not short either. So it's like everybody was too busy. So what I did is I asked Mario Cuello, who's here. Hello, Mario. Mario was the only person who was kind enough to accept to do that, and I thought, no, he's gonna read it. He's just gonna read it, and he's gonna tell me, oh, it's okay. But no, no, he actually read everything, and he showed me where there were mistakes. What an editor does, and he told me about the style, and he made recommendations. So that's why if you see the English edition, I'm working on a Spanish edition. The English edition of Alessandro, Mario is the editor, because I mean he was the only one who wanted to help me,
It was an
who
honor.
decided to help me.
It was an honor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, what I wanted to say is that writing is not difficult. It is a challenge. It is a challenge, and most of the times, I mean, it all depends on the difference between a famous writer and an average writer is that the famous writer does his best or her best to look for the most eloquent words. Be catchy. Try to get that reader's attention, because that's what readers are looking for. When you go and get a nice cup of Joe, a cup of coffee, I mean, and a good book, you sit down and I mean, you enter that world. You lose yourself in that world. And believe me, reading is my library is over there, and reading is good. It's fundamental, and
Right, right.
no, it improves your vocabulary, the way you express yourself, and of course, depending on the audience. I've
Yeah,
always said that, depending on the audience, you gotta be uh, um good enough. I remember Miss Karen de Nieto from Casa Grande told me I mean, told Herman Manso and myself, like, y'all two guys can go from a hood rat conversation to a very eloquent conversation just like that. And and me and Herman, we were talking about that, and it was like, I guess, because Herman also likes to read. And you start comparing words that you use, and the thing is practicing. And how can I put this word into common English? And how can I put this common English word that is usually used by everybody else into, make it more eloquent? And that's the secret, man. I mean, to me, that's the secret. All these
Yes.
good writers, I cannot remember her name, the one from Gremlin, I think, the one that wrote Lord of the Rings. I mean, to me, she was actually a witch. Because, I mean, look at her vivid imagination. Look at her vivid imagination. Look how famous she is, with that they made it into a movie. And it's not just that. I mean, there's a lot of books that have been turned into movies because of the good writing, and how catchy they are. Me right now, I'm going on
Tolkien.
5 years. I think I'm
Tolkien
going on
was the writer
5 or 6
of Lord of
years.
the Rings. Tolkien. Tolkien.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I'm going on like 5 or 6 years because I also got a book that's going to be for kids. It's called oh, I even forgot the name. The Brooklyn Zoo. And it's about an iguana, that it comes from Brooklyn and got lost, got into a dumpster, and somehow he got into, overseas, and he started traveling all the way into he reaches Parque de las Iguanas, because that's paradise to them. And I'm still on chapter 3, So I'm looking for the right word still. And
Right.
it's not difficult,
Right.
it's challenging.
Mhm.
And like I say, thank you again for making me your editor in that book. I was also
Sure.
the editor for you remember Vargas? I can't remember Jorge Vargas, the
Jorge
young guy.
Vargas.
Yes, he wrote a book too, in Spanish, and it was accepted. I was like, wow, I guess my Spanish has improved. But it's all about practicing, and like I always say, there's always room for improvements. Oh,
Yeah, yes. Yes.
thanks
Just
for letting me share.
like somebody said that you never stop learning a language. I'm still learning Spanish in many
Yes.
ways. So it's an endless cycle. Carlos, you have another question?
Yes, about what Mr. Coelho was telling was telling us. Yes, listening and reading definitely are very useful, helpful, productive activities. Maybe the average Ecuadorian doesn't read much, and we know that because I
One
can
point.
say I can say that I read maybe 15 to 17 books a year, maybe. And maybe I am a little bit more than the average, but 15 to 17 books a year. But I watch maybe 200 movies in Netflix and the other platforms a year. So I watch a lot of movies, a lot of series, a lot of TV shows. So I I have this, and what I am saying is listening and reading, watching. You are getting a lot of information, and that was really helpful in my daily life. Of course, I would like to do more reading, but sometimes the problem is that now I have to wear glasses. You see, so my eyes. I sometimes I fell asleep while I am reading. I don't know. I would like to overcome that.
Well,
Yeah, that's why.
right now there is an option which is called audiobooks. Audiobooks, which Amazon has been working on like for a year already, or more than a year, and you can listen to the book. Somebody recites the book, or what is happening to you, and you just listen. It's not real reading. It's not real reading, but it's close, the closest you can get when you have that kind of problem. And I think it's very practical. It's an excellent idea.
Thank you so much for you all, Mario, Mr. Carranza. Well, let me inform you that we are going to keep going with the interview. But in 5 years, let me see the time. Okay, in less than 30 minutes, we're going to stop. Okay, so we can go on to the next part of the interview. But Mr. Lewis, I also got a question about the topic that we are discussing about writing. Okay, so um, I remember when I studied my postgrading at Casa Grande University, I remember Miss Roxana Ramirez and other professors that actually I prepared with them, and they I remember they tried to give us the best of writing. I remember that we have to read a lot scientific articles, and not only scientific articles, many topics related to English teaching and other. So my question is, in your early years when you started writing, what kind of books did you write? Did you start up writing first? I mean, so what was the topics, the thematic? What was the thematic?
The first book I wrote, that was Blood Type. Blood Type, Antonio and Wetback, they all share the same theme, which is immigrants in exceptional circumstances or something like that. All right. So you see, Blood Type is pretty much that. There is an immigrant, it's the story of an immigrant that for some reason ends up in a dire circumstance. Same happens in Antonio and the same in Wetback. So basically, that was the common theme in those three stories. And if you read Alessandra was never publishing in for Copay, is also the same idea. It has that central idea that the immigrants living, in this case, second generation immigrants living special circumstances. So, blood type, for example, there was a lot of challenges in writing blood type because it was supposed to be written entirely, and it is, in simple present. So no references to the past, no talking about the future. Everything is in the simple present. And the language, I'm sorry, the vocabulary, the register that was used for that book had to be kept simple because it was meant to be used in basic levels, level one, two, and three, or level one or level two, whatever. And so it was really the most difficult part of writing that book was that, considering and respecting those aspects. I'm very sorry, but I think that Zoom is going to kick us out in a moment because we have less than 1 minute for this session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Luis, uh, for sharing with us the impressions or the things that you have already done at the beginning, and also the anecdotes that you have told us during your writing section. No, okay, we can see some colleagues and friends now. Mr. David Castro, maybe he is at work.
The same link, right?
Yeah, sure. The same link. We are going to continue in some uh, later on. Okay, so um. Good morning, everyone. We're back. Okay, in this second part of the teacher's interview with Mr. Luis Bermudez from Guayaquil, Ecuador. Now, we're going to focus on methodology in EFL learning. Mr. Luis is a professor in university, and he has worked on different aspects in teaching English. He has already shared with us his experience as a writer. So he mentioned aspects in reading and writing, but we are going to focus more on what is the methodology approach, Mr. Luis? What is the methodology approach or the instruction you normally used currently? And in your opinion, what is the most efficacy methodology that you would share in class, or would you recommend other teachers? So in your experience, could you briefly share with us?
I always tell my students that English is not necessarily a linear thing. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, what I mean. We most of the time the educational system as it is envisions the English teaching thing as a linear thing. We have to start with the simple present, then present continuous, blah 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 blah, and we have to be teaching vocabulary all along, and that's it. And pretty much is really an approach that hasn't worked the way it was supposed to so far. And the first thing that I tell my students is that they have to be responsible for their own learning. And it's not what we do in class what is going to work the magic. What is going to work the magic is what they do with whatever they learn in class and also on their own. So is because whatever I teach them is going to be limited, a limited thing, and it's never going to be enough. So I'm always giving them tips, things that they can do at home or whenever they are free to practice their English. So and I tell them these decisions, how you apply what I'm telling you now, these tips, it must involve something that you like, not something I'm just, these are just suggestions, but in the end, what you do with this is it has to be your thing. Um, for example, they should be. I always tell them you should be listening to music in English, and I know that you're not going to understand, but at the beginning you did not understand Spanish either. So it's something that is they have to envision English as a process, but it's a process that takes long. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's the thing. And we never tell this to our students. We never let them see that they are the most important part of the process. And we are helping them out. We're just assisting them, but we are not everything in the they are the ones who make the big decision. And for example, again with the linear thing, the simple present, why does it have to be like that? Why is it that we have to be with the simple present and then go? I mean, it makes sense. I know that it makes sense, but in real life it doesn't happen that way, or does it? Or does it? I mean, in real life, nobody decides what you're going to be teaching, what you're going to be learning first in Spanish, because the first school we all have is home. Is home. Our first teachers are our parents, and they are not like, okay, we need to decide what to say in front of the kids first. Today we're going to be using simple present, okay? Because he's learning or she's learning. No, it doesn't happen that way. I mean, it's a natural thing. I mean, whatever they have to say, they say it. So that approach, which I'm not saying that I know that there is a natural approach out there. I'm not talking about that one in particular, but that thing is lost in the way we teach the language. And that's another thing. We teach a language, but our students, they believe they are learning a subject, and that's another wrong thing. So you see, there are a lot of things that are not right in this process. So what I try to do myself in my classes is let them see what is wrong about the approach they might have about the language. The first thing is that 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 getting, for example, a 10 or an A plus or whatever as a score, that means that you are good at English. That doesn't really mean that you are good at English. It means that you got a 10 for because of a lot of circumstances. Some people are excellent test takers. And when you see the grade, that grade probably is not realistic, is deceiving, you know. And so that's what I do. Basically, in my class, I teach what I'm supposed to be teaching, of course, but I also tell them, okay, you have to understand, you must understand, you need to understand. This is a language, and things work differently than they do in chemistry, in biology, or whatever. Another thing is that they believe in memorization. And memorization doesn't really work. Or I mean, I know that there are things that we need to memorize, like, for example, the past of irregular verbs. But then from then on is if we memorize everything about the structures and things about it, that's not gonna work. Memorizing the vocabulary is not a good idea when you're learning. Knowing when to use this word or that word, that is much better. And pretty much that's what I do when I'm in class. That I try to change that, a little bit of that, but it's difficult, huh? It's difficult. Those beliefs, I try to change those beliefs, but it's really difficult because I mean, I work with young adults. It's easier when you work with teens. It's easier when you work with teens, but young adults are a little bit, they're harder. They're harder to convince. They already have these ideas, and they have these walls built around them. And the first one is called English is difficult. And I tell them English is not difficult. Spanish is much more difficult, and you could do it with you could learn Spanish. So you could learn Spanish. You can learn English. And the other wall is I'm just too dumb for English. And I said, no, that's not true either. So there are so many these beliefs they have, and it's difficult, but it's an everyday battle, which I try to do with my students. I think that some of them get it, some of them just don't get it, but eventually they will. Again, because even tearing down these walls takes time.
Great, thanks for sharing that experience, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Carranza, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Luis. I really think we are going to overcome the problem with teaching English soon. What I really have this, let me say, um, I really complain sometimes is there any way we can content or we can create consciousness about separating the English and the Spanish? Because you see what is happening to Mexico. The campaign was so aggressive that Mexican people are using a lot of English words in their daily conversation. Now they are saying, friséame la carne, mapéame el piso, printéame la hoja, tú tienes feeling, yo tengo una crush. Oh my goodness. It's terrible. It's the invasion of that culture to appropriate, and people are going to lose their identities. So can we do something to create or to separate our Spanish heritage and the acquisition of the second language, the English language? Is there any way that we can create that consciousness? Because as I can see it right now, most of the people are getting a lot of, now they are saying me estás estoqueando, and this is not very very nice, I mean very familiar. Some people call them anglicism, but it's americanism more because it's more for the problem of the United States that everything is, and you see, that is my problem. I mean, that is my complaint, even with my children, because they are saying things in English more than in Spanish, and sometimes that they know objects, things in English, and they don't know how to say them in Spanish.
Well, I think that you are actually posing several situations, not only one. The first thing that I can say about what is happening to the language, because you're talking about language and culture, and I know there is a connection, but they are not necessarily the same. So let's start with the language. Opposing to what is happening to the language is really difficult. I don't see it happening. I mean, you can have your own battles, but in the end, is a word that we cannot win. The influence of English in Spanish is happening, is true, and we have been having that for a long time already. And here's a proof. I don't know if you agree with this or not. Here's proof. You go to a department store and you want this beautiful blue T-shirt or whatever color it is, right? And when you go ask for the you ask the you talk to the clerk and you ask, um, what you say is this: disculpe, ¿tiene eso en large o en medium? But large is no English, and medium is no English either. So, and we do that. I don't know if that is happening in other countries, but it's happening in Ecuador. And for example, we already say this been happening for a long time. We say certain words that we believe they are Spanish, but they are really originally are English. For example, ralentizar. Ralentizar is not Spanish. Ralentizar is not Spanish. Empoderar. Empoderar. I mean, yes, they are now Spanish, maybe, but they are originally relent and empower. So you see my point. I mean, it's happening. I don't see, and perhaps it's something that we got to accept. I can tell you, years ago, the way we talk, it was even used to differentiate from what social level you came from, because I mean, we have always been, we always use, we always curse, we always say bad words. But for example, people from the high social level, they didn't, and now they do it all the time, like we do. So you see, it's like the language. These things happen, and there is very little we can do to face the problem. Um, uh, we say Wi-Fi, we say laptop. Uh, overall is not Spanish. I mean, you cannot find the word overall in Don Quixote de la Mancha, and I mean, it's such large book and story. You cannot find the word overall in there because it's originally English. And bistec is English.
Right.
Bistec is not Spanish, for example, and I can continue telling you. So what is probably happening is that the language is going to change. Is taking these words. It's been happening forever and ever. Is the way languages work. Is the way we should not be so much concerned about it. So some people saying, but you know what they say? They say, le vendo este lápiz a $2, $2, and then I say, is the $2 thing so bad? Because really, one thing about languages is that we have to avoid redundancy. And my question for you is, when you say $2, is that not redundant? Because you already say dos is more than one. You say three is more than two. You see, we are being redundant in a way. So probably it makes sense to say 20 dólares. Lo compré a $30. Allá no lo compré a $30. Imagine that. So my point is, we may not like it. We may not like it. I don't like it myself. I agree with you, Carlos. Of course, I mean, in that point, you're 100% right. But there is very little we can do about it. And it's not a one-way street, because American English is also being affected by Spanish. They have the word taco now. They use it all the time. They know how to say pronto. And between pronto and as soon as possible, pronto, using the word pronto is more practical
They
than
use
as
the
soon as
word
possible.
solo. Yes,
Yes,
solo.
yes,
Solo.
yes. So and so it's actually happening in two ways. It's a two-way street. I don't see perhaps the only thing that we can do is just to let it happen, let it flow, because it's happening like that. Now about the culture, yeah, I mean, I'm not very much preoccupied, because our traditions are something that unless we decide to go there and to relocate in the United States or in the UK, it's really very difficult that we give up our tradition. What I see happening is that I'm sorry, please do not get offended. We are noveleros. And and now the kids on Halloween, they go out and they dress up and they call it, oh, this is cosplay. And they go out and they go to Malecon 2000 and they stroll down and they have people look at them, take photographs. It's fun. So, and I don't know, that is something that you couldn't see 20 years ago. All right. But for example, we're not taking Thanksgiving, not to the best of my knowledge, or what is the other one? The one of the Shamrocks. I don't know if you can help me out with it. What is it?
Oh,
The
the Irish
St.
St.
Patrick.
Patrick's. Right?
St. Patrick's.
Saint Patrick Day.
Yeah, we're not doing that, even though it's a Catholic tradition, but it's from the Irish, the Irish that live in New York. Um, so these things happen. Some of them stay, some of them don't. Okay, it's really about the people. People decide, and again, it's a lot of them versus. It's like the old thing. What we are Americans. We are Americans. I mean, yes, we are Americans, but there is very little. I mean, we can do against all of the 300 million of U.S. citizens that call themselves American. And it's not only them, it's the Canadians. The Canadians also call them American. And the Russians, and the Chinese, and the Japanese. I mean, we cannot convince them all that we are also Americans. So there are things that we can just not change, or at least not that easily. Again, I don't know if I answered your question, Carlos.
I think you did it. I think you got
Yeah,
it.
yes, absolutely, yes.
You
Yeah,
were
Tomás,
very clear. You were very clear in your arguments. Thanks, Mr. Luis. Now, I'm not sure if Jaco wanted to participate as well. I saw you, or you were
Yeah,
going to
you know,
say something.
it's about this thing about the language and how we are adopting English words. It's been going on like for more than 40 years. It's not just now because of the border situation. And let me tell you something. Here in the I live in the United States. So here in the United States, it's even. I mean, the influence from Hispanic or Latin American countries is even bigger, right? For example, you say, "Oh, why do we celebrate Halloween or why do we celebrate St. Patrick's?" Here in the school, they celebrate Dia de Muertos. They celebrate Cinco de Mayo. They celebrate Dia de la Virgen de Guadalupe. They celebrate las posadas mexicanas. They celebrate Dia de Reyes, Rosca de Reyes. They celebrate Carnaval. They celebrate Dia del Niño. And they are not saying, "Oh, come on, why are we celebrating those Hispanic feasts?" Come on, it's cultural. So I think that Halloween, for example, or Thanksgiving Day is a great opportunity to teach, cultural awareness, a lot of vocabulary, a lot of things, rather than saying, no, that's American, that's not good, right? And for example, you were mentioning some, Spanish, that things about te llamo para atrás, things like that, mopear el piso. It's 100 years ago, man. It was mainly done by Puerto Ricans that are part of the United States, but nowadays they talk to burrito, tamal, perfecto, no? They tell you
Yeah, perfect.
Burrito,
perfecto.
burrito.
Mi casa es su casa.
Comprende.
No, well, for real. They don't say let's go to a party. Let's have a fiesta tomorrow, right? Oh, he lives in my barrio, right? La raza, viva la
Yeah,
revolución. They joke with that, right? And they even now say, hey, ese vato, that cholo, that
Cinco de
coyote.
Mayo.
These guys are using a lot more of Spanish words than the words that we use from English. So there's
Yeah, it's
nothing.
called
I think
a
totally, Mario. You are the expert there, man. So I think that it's positive, and let's celebrate Halloween. Let's celebrate the Thanksgiving Day because that's an opportunity to share with students a lot of culture. Yesterday they
Exactly.
celebrated the Chinese New Year Chinese celebration. I think that's okay, and we are ridiculous when we say, "Oh, come on, that's American." Come on.
Yeah, Cinco de Mayo is celebrated in the United States, and like you say, those words that I use, look, we use pueblo, sombrero. I'm saying it in the English Anglo-Saxon pronunciation. Sombrero, pueblo, amigo, adios. I mean, those are called adaptations in the same way that we got it from French, like toilet, perfume, deja vu. I mean, there's a lot of words in it. America is not just a country of immigrants; it's also a language of immigrants nowadays. And you got a lot of adoptions from a lot of countries.
Mr.
And
Max,
even
you
in
gotta tell
Spain,
that to
It's a
Trump.
mental swap. It's a
Tell that
mental.
Trump.
Trump, he's a jackass sometimes.
Even Trump uses words in Spanish. No, he keeps going perfecto, right?
He's one of his immigrants. That's why.
Historically, Mario, no? Historically, United States have received in the recent and in the past story many immigrants, and I remember that when the pilgrims and other immigrants that come from other countries, they went into the states, and the way they speak or the language they were immersed, it translates to the people who live there. No, I mean the native speakers, no, and that's the real history of language, not only in the United States, in American, I mean, and even in South America, when it happened with our language, well, in that time was not Spanish our mother tongue, because the Spaniards were the ones that conquered, and then people started speaking, no. So the history explain us and describe events that happened, the different immigrants that they contributed with the culture and the language in the nations, right?
Yeah. So something that Jaco said that was very important. Let's use all this as another opportunity to teach our students. Because it's not only the language; it's also the culture that is connected. So
Yeah, I
it's
would like to say something. I would like to say something.
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, talking about the last topic, methodology approach that you were talking about. I guess uh, there is any methodology approach that works if the students don't have the inspiration to learn a language. I speak about this because back then, 2017, started learning that language, and I had the inspiration, right, to learn it because I knew that English was going to open me many doors professional talking, right? Yeah, but when the students are forced to learn something, they don't learn. They are not interested at all, at all. So whatever that you do in class is not going to work. That's my experience. Because once I was at Papay giving classes, and one of my
Yeah, I think that the screen was frozen about it. So let's keep until Ruben came back. So Mr. Lewis, no? Well, Mr. Ruben was talking about methodology, and in this part of the interview, we are going to discuss also about artificial intelligence. I remember once, Mr. Lewis, the first invitation you accepted here was about artificial intelligence, and you already explained chat GPT and some interventions and things that people were looking for information, no? So, well, um, many people, some people believe that artificial intelligence brings many opportunities for searching information. Others said that that's not good because you take advantage or you can copy paste or whatever, no? So what are the limits or maybe the restrictions that you professionally can share with us and telling us, or what do you transmit to your student how to use in artificial intelligence with responsibility and autonomy, please?
Okay, I think that you mentioned one word that is very important is the limits. You are the limit. You as a teacher, you are the limit of what you can do with I mean, with artificial intelligence because it is a weapon. Okay, maybe I use that word incorrectly. A tool. It's a tool. It's a weapon to combat ignorance, but okay. It's a tool. You use it, and how well you use it, how efficient you are about using it, that is up to you, how well prepared you are. Because there are many possibilities out there for business. I'm sorry to say, but that sometimes education and business they do go together, and we should I mean, we should reassess our career, what we do, no, and see what other possibilities are there that have been created, and we don't know anything about them because we are not doing research. We need to do research, and here is the negative point. These things are changing very quickly. They are going fast. I remember that the breakthrough, at least the one I perceived for AI, that happened in November 2023. That was very recent. And look at and the changes that have been happening are amazing, are out of the world. And I just don't know. I mean, sometimes I just don't know what to do with it. For example, what I tell them is, you need to talk with this tool. It's not a real person, but it sounds and behaves in many ways as a real person. When I was your age, we always play jokes saying, "Oh, I'm going to marry a gringa so I can practice at home." You don't need to marry a gringa or a gringo to practice at home. Now you have that. So talk to it because it's going to respond in kind. It's really what you do with it. It's your imagination. I'm sorry for what I'm going to say. Maybe it's a silly example, but there is this superhero called Green Lantern. He has a ring, and
But
with the imagination, it can produce many things. But what is the
it,
limit of the ring? It has several limits, but the most important is the person, the wielder of the ring wielder. So if he doesn't have a great imagination, he's going to go to produce images and stuff like that. He's not fit for the job. It's the same
it's
here.
a sorry to bother, Liz. It's a good opportunity, as you mentioned, to go beyond your imagination because it fosters, I mean, speaking, for example, opportunities. For example, you can speak to another person, but with artificial intelligence, you can even speak to pets. For example, now they released the artificial intelligence dog, and you can talk to him. You can, he can answer your questions, right? So if you live alone, you can even talk to that artificial pet. It's an opportunity to practice your language.
Right, right. So you see, and these things are happening way too quickly. And that's the only bad thing about it because otherwise it's what you do with it. So my suggestion for all teachers is that we should start. I am already doing it, researching on what you can do with artificial. Other teachers already are on the lead, and so this is like a rat race, and I don't know if you have seen a real rat race, but they go over. I mean, they jump over you. They possibly they climb over you and then try to be on the front, and they don't care about the rest. So pretty much it's a rat race, and what we should be doing is learning as much as we can and about artificial intelligence, but in a way that we can use it for our purposes. And our purposes are teaching English to our students, or giving them ideas on how to enhance what they learn in practice, because that's the keyword. The keyword hasn't changed, huh? The keyword hasn't changed. Still, if you want to really learn a language, you need to practice. You need to use it. Otherwise, you're not really learning, and without that element, it's not gonna happen, and it's never gonna happen. No matter how many tens or A pluses you get, you need to practice because otherwise the language is just going to wear off. It's going to wear off and disappear. You don't want that. You don't want that. And okay, go ahead, Mario. Sorry.
A, a lot of people believe that artificial intelligence is going to take over. I don't think it's going to take over jobs. I think that people that are not trained with artificial intelligence, those are going to be left out without a job. But if you train yourself, learn how to manage it, I mean, they got like more than 17 applications these days that of what artificial intelligence can do. And that's what we got to focus ourselves on, how to use those tools. So like that, we'll still have a job because, I mean, that's the future. They're not going to replace it. They are going to replace those that do not know how to use it. I believe that's what's going to be replaced. If you don't know how to put this, look at now. I mean, you got to learn how to use platforms, set up this, set up that, and everything is computer savvy. Everything. You got to get into that. You got to do videos because these days, in order for you to catch students' attention, a book is not enough. You gotta put them games and pick on their thinking. That's where we head into that.
Yeah.
We head into that, and I'm pretty sure that Bill Gates probably already got some virus infested program because everybody loves Microsoft, and we're gonna have one of this virus infested programs, so he could charge us later and how to clean it. After he sells it to us and get our computers infected, then we could be able to clean that artificial intelligence program that we are going to use. But believe me, I know he's working on that too. And I believe that. I mean, we even got free courses. Google has a free course on how to use artificial intelligence and its applications. And
yeah,
we got to
become outdated soon because, as I said, this is changing really, really quickly, and it's because of the I mean, it's because of greed. Greed is the engine here. The fuel, the fuel, because they want the larger piece of the cake for themselves,
and they're gonna get it.
competition. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna get it.
We have only 4 minutes, Andres.
Right.
I know.
Well,
Yeah, this conversation has been lively.
yeah, well, thank you so much, Mario, for your intervention. And I think that those things contributed for making this interview more practical and interactive. No, this interview format is not the traditional interview as we did in the past. No, that only one person asks and the person has to respond in that way. So now we have different participants and they make sure their arguments or their things that they want to know, they ask directly to our guests, no? And that's we make it simpler. All right. So Mr. Lewis, now to finish this interview, I would like that I would like it could be more time to ask, yeah, more questions about the things you do, and let me congratulate, okay, honestly, okay, with the things you do, and makes your and we know that you are a committed professor. You had many merits, and we deserve you the best, no, in your profession. And we as
Thank you.
colleagues here, we are eager to learn from more from that. No? So I hope you can accept another invitation later on, no, in order to continue more topics, Mr. Lewis.